I just got done playing through Transience, so I may as well run through the list of levels and rank them from worst to best. Transience is a shorter game featuring 9 playable levels, so this should go by a lot quicker, and not take me 12 pages of notes to put this one together like the previous one did. I also want to quickly mention I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers. Every level will get a brief explanation, but I'll do my best to avoid names and the full context of each level as it pertains to the story. The rules will remain the same, but let's quickly run through those. Fun factor: this list is entirely subjective. Feel free to disagree and share your own. The goal of this list in general is to find levels that are worth playing through if you only have about an hour to spend. It doesn't matter how integral a level is to the overall plot or its final level. All that matters is which level would I give someone to try out if they never played this game before. That being said, we also want this level to represent the game. Something that isn't overly complex, but also something that can showcase pretty much everything the game has to offer at the same time. Rule number 2, replayability. Is the level fun enough that I want to run through it more than once? And if so, how many times? Smaller levels could end up breaking height just because of this, but I'll try my best to balance things out so that doesn't happen. And number 3, difficulty. I don't like penalizing games just because of how hard it is to beat them. However, if a level has some cheap tricks or is tedious with how you have to beat it, then it will likely lose a few spots. And those are the rules. I don't want to interrupt this video any more than I have to going down this list, so if you want to support my channel, please consider liking the video and sharing it around. We all know YouTube won't. And if you played this game already, go ahead and start putting your list together in the comments below. It'll be interesting to see just how different everyone's list is from each other. And now, onto the list. Remember when I said this game had 9 levels? Well, that is true for the main story campaign. Transience also has this secondary roguelike mode called Holdout. It features one unique level called Training Course, with 3 other levels being a specific section of already existing levels. And instead of ranking each of these on their own, it's best for this list to just bunch them all as one spot. Since Holdout and its unique map works differently from the main campaign and focuses entirely on replayability, there's no other spot I can put Holdout on this list other than dead last. It's not to say this game mode or its map selection is bad. It's a nice time waster, and a cool way to add on a roguelike to a small game. It's not perfect, but it's a good proof of concept if nothing else. To anyone who played this game on day 1, you think the first level called Unicorn would take the spot as the worst level in this game. And well, even when adding the Holdout mode, it's still not the second worst level, at least to me. A simple meaning is the 6th level of the game. To vaguely touch on what this level is about, you call in a favor to have someone smuggle your high-tech suit into a high-end nightclub to talk to a VIP and get some answers. The first half of this level has you walking around, trigger a few events, and retrieving your suit from the dance floor, with the second half being a shootout as you work your way over to where the VIP is at. A cutscene plays out, and you continue fighting your way to the end of the level. As far as design goes, this is probably the best looking level in the entire game. It's also a good decision to allow the player to walk around and see the entire level before the fighting begins. Sometimes the walking simulator portion of levels like this can feel like a drag, walking from place to place and waiting for the action to start, but that's not the case with this one. Honestly, I think it's the best part of this level. It's not the most detailed or interactive experience, as you only have about 3 things you can interact with, but it's a nice change of pace to look around without having to worry about getting your head shot off. And as we look around, you may notice something. If you were to get into a shootout, there's not really much cover for the player to work with. There are these see-through dividers that the enemy does see you through and will shoot at you through them. And for the second floor, you have the bar and a lot of glass walls. It's not to say that there isn't any hard cover. Some of it is well placed for the scenarios the game puts you in, but veer off course and it's basically instant death. When triggering the start of the second half of this level, the enemy already knows where you're coming from. You also start on the second floor, leaving no room to quietly sneak around the enemy. It's obvious this is an action sequence, which is perfectly fine for me in most cases. However, here, you have to outshoot 2 or 3 enemies at a time to stand a chance. You do still have your gadgets, your flashbangs, and your slow-mo, so it's not like this is impossible by any means. These shootouts though just feel very awkward and forced, while giving the player very few ways to deal with the situation. Now, this next complaint could just be me, but I also had the hardest time seeing enemies on this level. Even when I played it again with night vision on, the enemies just don't seem to stick out all that well. Fortunately, this level and the action sequence is fairly short. I just can't help but feel that this level has a few beginner traps. I'm sure some people were able to get through this level just fine on their first go around, but it took me about 4 deaths to get through this level. So since this is purely an action level with not so great cover, and it's also short compared to other levels, it's going to end up being the worst level from this game's campaign. Now, if you're curious as to how I would change the layout of this level, I'm going to explain that. Don't worry, I'm not going to do this for every level, just for this one. And if you don't want to hear me rant on, then you can skip over to the next level with the available chapters or timestamps. For the rest who decided to stay, let me make it clear, I'm not a level designer, so I can't give you a great visual representation of my layout, but I can draw a few outlines. This first outline, not to scale, is the original layout of the second section of the level. The first floor has this rock structure in the middle, with a bar built on the back side of it, then the elevators off to the side. The second floor has a narrow walkway, another bar, the dance floor on the left side, and then back behind the bar are the restrooms where you change into your suit. Now this is my outline, again not to scale. In this outline, we're moving the dance floor to the first floor. The dance floor in this game has 2 levels, but for this redesign, we're only going to need 1. To make this work, we'll also have to remove the rock structure and bar from the center to open things up. You can still have a few tables, couches, and some dividers off to the sides to fill in the rest of the space. As for the bar that was in the middle of this floor, we're shoving that into the wall on the opposite side of the elevators, facing the dance floor. There will also be a few steps to walk up into the bar, just like you would for the elevator. This layout is a bit too open though, so then let's add in a few rock pillar formations, similar to this one that's at the very back of the room, with 3 or 4 of them spaced out around the dance floor. This would fit nicely with the coral reef, underwater cave aesthetic this level is going for, while also providing the player cover and cut lines of sight from one side of the room to the other. Lastly, we can fit a DJ booth where this original rock pillar formation thing is. As for the second floor, it remains mostly the same. However, instead of having a second dance floor, we're going to change that room into a lounge. Something smaller, darker, moodier, with jazz music playing in the background. I think this makes more sense to have the chill and quieter place tucked away, and it also plays nicely into the noir-style world of Transience. You still meet up with your contact on the second floor, this time in the lounge, grab your suit, and head to the same restrooms to gear up. Once the action sequence starts, it plays out the same way. Though I would replace some if not all of these see-through dividers with solid cover that the enemies cannot see or shoot you through. You fight through the rest of the guards on the second floor and go down the elevator. Now back on the first floor, you have to make it to the bar across the dance floor. While the main overhead lights on the first floor are turned off or dimmed down, the dance floor lights remain lit. I would even go as far as to have the lights on the dance floor have this light trail effect. Most of the lights on the floor would be turned off except for these trail of lights. You then have a few guards on the dance floor patrolling and occasionally being illuminated by the dance floor lights. This also gives the player a reason to use night vision or to try and rely only on footsteps and the occasional trail of lights on the floor. You then decide how you want to take them out. Whether you go straight through, you stay on the edges, check out the DJ booth, whatever you want to do. Then you get to the bar on the other side, and the rest of the level plays out just like before. I feel this level would not only be more interesting and more true to a nightclub setting, at least one that's in an action game, but it also helps with making the gunfight on the first floor feel more unique instead of just throwing enemies at you. Anyways, my rant is over. Let me know what you guys think about this layout, and let's move on to the next level. Somehow, Unicorn is also not the third worst level in this game, but it is by a technicality. Level 8, Safe House, is barely even a level on its own. It's more of a place for the good guys to get to know a little more about each other and make a plan for the final level in this game. It does feature the Kill House and this range minigame that were a part of Transience's original public demo. Now you may ask, but if Safe House is barely a level, why did I place it higher than the previous level? Well, they're both fairly short levels in retrospect when you finally get into the action, so it's a lot closer than you may think. However, if I only had time to load up one level and had to choose between these two, it's going to be Safe House every single time, just to be able to get a few runs in on the Kill House and try to set a new personal best time. Like I said, this kind of list isn't going to be scientifically accurate, and yes, I am going to rate certain levels higher than the absolute worst levels in the game, even if it does mean I have to bend my own rules just a little bit. Moving on. Okay, I can't delay it any further. let's talk about the first level of this game, Unicorn. The reason why it was hated so much is because it's a slow burn. You start by simply walking around, and you crawl through a random vent that puts you back on track to get to your apartment. On your way over to the apartment, there's a makeshift jungle gym you have to crouch, crawl, and climb through to make it to the other side. It's fairly obvious this is just here to teach the player the movement abilities that the game has to offer. This wouldn't be as big of a deal if something was happening during this sequence, like we've seen in so many games in the past, like in Battlefield 3's campaign, where you're crawling underneath the enemy's feet. There's not really anything else going on other than a little bit of dialogue and some things moving here and there.
Come out in the open! Hiding will be seen as an act of aggression!
But at least it's better than just pure silence and crawling through a bunch of metal. It would have been a neat idea if Eli had to crawl and climb around furniture inside the first few floors of the apartment buildings while a shootout is going on between the local gang and the army of hitmen who just showed up looking for Eli. Outside of that small part, the rest of the level is mostly fine. I think the amount of enemies per room though is a bit much, especially for it being the first level of a stealth game. And even though there is a comedically larger number of enemies Eli has to tiptoe around and deal with, the level plays out just fine. It definitely would be higher on my list if I didn't have to run through the same hike at the start to get to the apartment buildings. But not only that, because there are so many enemies and so little space to work with, I also feel this game doesn't really properly represent the kind of stealth experience that you could have in this game. The second level of this game, Pursuit, takes the 6th spot basically by default. It's a shorter level, and you're still escaping from the same group of hitmen from the previous level. While it goes straight into the action, hopping from rooftop to rooftop, that's about all this level has to offer gameplay-wise. Funny enough, I think this plays out as a better first level than Unicorn. Aside from the first floor being filled with a few too many enemies, the rest of the level is fairly well spaced out, allowing you to think on the fly and plan your route without too much trial and error. Of course, I have to mention, this is the level that introduces SQL, a rival accountant who's looking for any way to one-up Eli. It's a treat playing through this level while occasionally listening to the back and forth between Eli and SQL. Even though this level can't be rated any higher, it's still definitely worth playing through if just for the banter between Eli and SQL. I honestly could not place this level in a better spot on this list. Mazed takes place after the level A Simple Meaning, and while it is a nice palate cleanser from that level, at least for me, Mazed is more of getting from point A to point B, traveling through maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrols, and finding a way to escape. The best way I can describe this level is, it's more Transience. It's a very linear and straightforward level with not that many options for stealth. It's still a fun level to play as the gunplay of Transience is still very enjoyable, especially once you get to the spot where you can look down and snipe at enemies at a distance. Coincidentally, this level also features SQL, so we also get to enjoy a little more back and forth between Eli and SQL. And the level ends in a shootout against SQL and a handful of guards. I don't think I have to make a case for why this level is better than the previous ones on this list. As for why I can't rate it any higher, well, we only have 4 spots left, and I feel the rest of these levels are unique enough or have something different that sets them apart from Mazed. The Transient is the final level of this game. While it may not be the best level, I really like the first half, slowly traversing your way around enemy guards, cameras, and motion sensors in a fairly open environment. Something that, in my opinion, we could have seen more of throughout this game. It is by no means an easy task to not get detected, but I feel it's mostly fair. Sadly, I do enjoy the first half a little more than the final action sequence. The last part of this level has you fighting through a ton of enemies in this area. I was very confused at first as to how I was supposed to tackle this situation. Eventually, I did find a route that worked out. However, there is also no way to escape. You have to fight every enemy that shows up until you kill them all. Keep on the move, break line of sight, get the enemies confused, and take advantage. This took me 4 tries to get through. It's not the most aggravating or difficult thing in the world, but it can feel a bit draining since it's just a bunch of enemies being thrown at you in this fairly small environment. And now we're on to the final 3 levels on this list. Having visitors only as the 3rd best level is a bit of a weird one. This is purely an action sequence level. You're trying to meet up with a young blood accountant to try and get more information as to what's going on. In order to do so, you have to deal with his guards throughout the entire level. Once you make it to the main building, you fight through these hallways and meet up with him. Then you fight your way back out from where you came. So why is this level this high up on this list? Well, I just like it. I think it's highly replayable as you don't have to worry about stealth. The enemies never feel overwhelming other than the start of the level. But if you play your cards right, the guards can also easily lose track of you, giving you full advantage. Since there isn't really any other level that's like this in the entire game, and it's a lot of fun, I think it deserves a high spot on this list. As far as an action sequence level goes, I think Visitors Only is the one that nails it for this game. This is probably controversial to some, but I really enjoyed Information Game. Knowing that Transience is a tactical stealth shooter that's trying to play like Max Payne and Splinter Cell, Information Game feels like a level pulled from that era. It reminded me a lot of a level from 007 Nightfire, where you're going into a high security building and stealing info while avoiding guards, cameras, and motion detectors throughout the level. Information Game does all of the above in a fairly similar way, mixed in with a few minigames. However, if you do get detected too early, the lights go red and you get hunted down by a wave of enemies. It's not necessarily game over though. If you can survive the wave and stay hidden long enough, the red alert clears, and it's business as usual. While recording footage for this video, I tripped the alarm 2 or 3 times, somehow didn't die, and still completed the level. Even on my very first playthrough of this level, I didn't trip any of the alarms and beat it on my first try. It's not to say that this level is easy or that I had the cleanest run, but it is definitely possible to beat this level if you take your time and scout the area. The last part of this level has you in a shootout where you have to escape via elevator. While Information Game isn't a perfect level, I think it's a great level to keep in mind when making a retro stealth shooter like Transience. If I were to give someone a single level to showcase this game, letting them know full well that this is a stealth game, this would be it. There are a few things that the next level offers that I feel is a more fun experience, while still providing a similar challenge. Going shopping is a great level for a few reasons. As for what this level is about, Eli has a hunch that his stealth suit, which was stolen, was transported to a nearby storage facility. Infiltrate the facility, find your suit, and get out. First and foremost, going shopping is an open level. You are not stuck going in a single direction. You can tackle it any way you see fit. I just about walked around this level completely backwards by accident on my first playthrough. And again, just pointing out that I did make a video playing through these levels for the first time, so you can see how that went. Secondly, if you're revisiting this level, you can easily skip 2 of the objectives if you really wanted to. It's not to say every level in Transience should have this option though. It's a nice thing to have for the sake of replayability. The enemies are also very well spaced out. It's not likely you get overwhelmed unless you're playing very carelessly. Between the level being very open, and the enemies are not stacked on top of each other like they are in most other levels, going shopping is not just a great level for a new player to try out Transience, but it's also another great blueprint as to how other Transience levels can be made. I don't think every level should feel as easy or be as open as going shopping, but the previous 2 levels on this list, Information Game and Visitors Only, take care of everything else a game like Transience should offer. And that is my list of ranking every level of Transience from worst to best. And you'll have 2 lists on screen, one showing each level in order, and the other one showing them by my ranking. Like I said, my system may never provide a perfect list, but I do think it gives room for some levels like Visitors Only to stick out, while also filtering out smaller levels from ranking too high. I also didn't mention the music throughout this video, so let me address that real quickly. The soundtrack fits really well with this noir stealth atmosphere. I've also been using it as background music for this entire video. Definitely check it out if you like this kind of style and genre. You're not going to regret it. And if you really just want to listen to 1 or 2 tracks, then I would recommend the tracks New Houston, Datum, Talon, and Retreat. If you don't like rap, then listen to the instrumental version of Retreat. With all said and done, Transience is a fun game, but by no means is it perfect. If you have the game or are planning to play it, this list can give you an idea of what to expect, unless you have played the game already and completely disagree with my list. Let me know what your list will look like in the comments below. I'm curious to see just how different everyone else's list would be. Until then, I am Mr. Rain, and I'll see you next time.